Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. It's your old pal Grumps, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. I have no big philosophical messages or rants to go on. This is something I've been thinking about doing for over, I would say, at least 20 some odd years. Before became a father and a husband and all that stuff, I've always loved to write. Uh, I I told the story when like I was from the time I was 16 to about 18. I love writing stories. Your typical fanfics, characters that you want to tell stories about, whether it be a comic book character or a movie monster or whatever. That was me. I mean, I was writing those type of stories when I was uh, a teenager. And well, that kind of got hammered out of me by parents and stuff like that. You need to be a responsible adult and pick a successful career path and live my dream, not your dream. But well, I'm not a kid anymore, and thanks to content creation, kind of opened up the doorways to my creativity and the desire to tell a story has really started to become something that I really, really want to do. So, what I want to do on this particular stream, you can see a little black, that's notepad up there, is to like get the idea. All right, I already have some basic ideas that I want to do. Like first, like the setting. All right, or in this case, would also be called the time period. Now, growing up, I was a big fan of westerns. All right, I love westerns. You see like the hero cowboy riding into town and the big injustice in there, and they sit there and single-handedly correct all the wrongs and then gets the girl and all that stuff. I mean, that's Hollywood westerns. Okay, I do kind of want to tell a more accurate type of westerns as far as how the real West was, but also keep that certain Hollywood type of element to the story, as far as like a, a hero, uh, the villain, that kind of thing, without Holly making it too Hollywood like. So it's gonna be a western. It will be set in the American West. Okay, now on our thinker, work with me here. And uh, in about the, I would say 19, well, actually, no, 19, 18. I don't want to get like into the 1890s because that's like where there was a massive change in the Industrial Revolution. That's like when the Civil War and like cars were being made and electric lights and all that stuff. I kind of want to still keep in that like true the period right before that. So like probably 1870s would be about the appropriate time frame I want to keep it. I mean, I could keep it like during American Civil War, but also the simple fact that a lot of the firearms you see in Western movies came out the Civil War. That's when like a lot of gun production happened because of the war, which kind of makes sense. Okay, you'll see people tell stories in the like prior to the Civil War, and they say people have Winchesters. They didn't have Winchesters prior to the Civil War. Okay, all right. They didn't have Colt peacemakers before the Civil War. All right, that's happened during and the Civil War where those advancements in firearms happened. So we got to keep it in the 1870 time frame. It's typically your most popular Western periods that people tell stories about. So this will be after the American Civil War. Um, and region of country that we need to kind of also take place and make a decision on is it's going to show it. It's going to show it. All right. Nope, it's not going to show. Okay. All right, there. Yeah. So typically, no, you get Texas. There's a lot of stories take place in Texas, New Mexico, and like these areas, the deserts. But I'm thinking like Wyoming or Montana, like in the Rocky Mountain area. Because as you can see in the Rocky Mountains, like over here where it says White River, there's valleys and all that stuff. There were a lot of boom towns in those areas where silver mining, uh, copper mining, and there were a lot of mining towns in this area because there was a lot of minerals and stuff. I could always do like in California, but I don't want to do in California or even Nevada. But actually, I'm more interested in keeping like in between like through Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah area, um, because this is like this the Rocky Mountains was basically like a barrier of advancement of what we would call the Industrial Revolution. Cars and all those advancements, electric and all that, they actually get past the Rocky Mountains until about the, I would say, if I remember my history correctly, until about after 1910. All right, they were all already in wide use on the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains, but transporting those advancements on the other side of the Rocky Mountains took longer because railroads and all that stuff and having people of skill to install those things. All right, it took longer for those advancements to get past the Rocky Mountains. So I'm thinking like maybe even like the Snake River, like basically, or in Utah here. Uh, Wyoming's typically a lot of westerns take place in Wyoming, New Mexico, and Texas. I want to pick like either like Utah or these plain valleys of Wyoming, and yeah, uh, most towns in western movies, their names you can hear Redemption, uh, Peaceful Creek. The numbers are all made up. Okay, uh, it's very rare that you're going to hear an actual real Western town name in here. I mean, other than like Dodge City or Tombstone, all that stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of look at Western town names and make uh, either find an accurate his a real town in that area, which is like in the Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado area. Like I said, I want to have the setting kind of in the area where the four states meet. So like where Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah area. I'm thinking it's like right here. For a long time, people don't understand the the way these states were divided up. Wyoming actually was like right the border for Wyoming back in the west was like a little bit closer to Denver, and most of Utah was considered Wyoming, but these were divided up based on election results, electoral college, and all that stuff. That's why you see like this like a almost like a Tetris type thing here. All right. So that's how they kind of divided up the western side of America as compared to the east coast of America. But I kind of want to keep it in at least four corners, like the Wyoming, Colorado, Utah area, because actually that's like a pretty lawless area in that time in the 1870s. So it's going to kind of play into that area. So we're just going to call this the Rocky Mountain Four Corners. All right, I got you back over here. Try to give me a second. Yeah, I got you back over there. Get you back over there. I'm trying to go back. So we're going to go to Rocky Mountain Four Corner States. And we're going to do a boomtown setting as our, like, basically our main area, where we it's going to be the focal point when our hero, we're going to use that term, comes in. Now, as for how the story starts, the story's going to starting point will be in the wilderness, because that's kind of like the vision I have in my head for where the story starts, to get a sense of scope of the country. Also, his relationship to the reason why he's doing what he's doing. All right, so that's our setting. Okay, it's set in the American West in 1870. We're going to be in the Rocky Mountain Four Corner State in a boomtown. And the starting point for the story will be in a wilderness. Okay, let's talk about our hero. Now, most heroes we have nowadays, we see all have a tragic past. There's like a reason why they're doing what they're doing. Typically, it's for revenge. Most people love revenge stories. Okay, even especially in westerns, westerns like a hero, especially in Hollywood, doing things for revenge. Most of Clint Eastwood movies are that way. The mysterious stranger is out for revenge to right that wrong that happened in the past, and all that stuff. But I'm going to do something a little different. Uh, he is going to have trauma, but okay, let me spell trauma right. Work with me. Work with me. Okay. Not Trump. Okay. He's going to have trauma. But he is going to be a U.S. Marshal. So he's going to be an actual lawman, but not necessarily. A lot of lawmen you see in a Western are two types. Okay, one that's strictly by the law, by the book kind of guy. Also, you got the lawman that uses the law to their advantage. He's gonna be both. By the book and uses the law to achieve his goals. All right. There is going to be a revenge element. I'll correct it here. I know. Element to the reason why he's doing it. Yeah, am I keeping this vague? Yeah, I'm keeping it vague because I don't want people to steal my fucking idea. So I'll start writing it. Okay, but then there's going to be a revenge element to it. It deals with the trauma. So our hero is going to be a U.S. Marshal, both by the book, and uses the law to achieve his goals. Okay, so he's kind of walking that edge between revenge and being a legitimate lawman. So he's dancing in the gray area. Okay, let's talk about his look a little bit. So we got the basic reasoning behind it. Uh, family's dead. Uh, we're talking about wife and child. So it's like in the West, that's like the main reason why we do for revenge. Uh, and also, we're gonna make him friendly to Native Americans, which is going to be important later on to the story. Actually, it's actually going to be important at the start of the story. Okay, let's talk about his look. He's going to be haggard and worn by travel. No, he's going to be. Let me do this. He's going to be in his 30s, which is actually old age. There's not a lot of people who in the West that live past the age of 50. So 30 back then was actually considered middle aged because not a lot of people live past 50 in the Old West. So it's usually, people kill. I got just that because half this is being cut off. Okay. Okay, there we go. That way you can see everything. All right. Warren. His basically this is going to be his face. Okay, worn down by guilt and travel. Okay, no, his face is going to be, he's going to look older than what he actually is. So I'm planning on keeping him in his like early 30s, talking about 31, 32, but he's actually going to look older. He's going to have gray hair, graying at the his temples. No, there's sort of like he's got a few gray hairs at his temples around his eyes. Uh, and we're gonna make him about so self-insert character. He's gonna be about 5'5", 11, which is actually kind of tall for the American West. I mean, you see the large 6-foot cowboy. They were rare. Okay, you didn't see too many large, tall cowboys because evolution, But I'm not saying they don't exist, but we're gonna keep. And 5'11" was about the average height of your standard adult male back then. So we're gonna keep him at an average height. Blue eyes and black hair, and we're gonna keep him clean shaven. No, he's gonna have like the 3-day growth and all that stuff, but he shaves. He's not gonna have a beard. Okay. That's his look. I mean, that's what you, if you were like to see him on a movie screen or whatever, that's kind of how I want him to be representative. I don't want a blonde hair or or a 16-year-old or 20-year-old. I want someone that actually looks like they have lived a hard life. You know, a face worn down by guilt and travel. I mean, life hasn't really been that kind to them. Uh, Clothing. There's one. Uh, the main element in the clothing that is actually a key to this character is a gray duster. Okay. Other elements is going to be your typical. The other stuff he's wearing is going to be his typical Western type clothing. I mean, but the duster, his gray duster, is what how people are going to know. Okay. Uh, People call him the Gray Marshal. That's not his name, but everybody's going to call him that. And you'll find he'll say his real name probably midway through the story or towards the end. All right. Um, the villain. Now we could go two ways with the villain. We can do the typical land baron who's like keeping the town and squeezing the town for every penny and all that stuff. But no, I'm thinking, and he goes to do the sympathetic villain that this guy's believing he's doing the right thing and what he's doing is for the best of society. You know, I know a lot of people like a sympathetic villain, but sometimes it's nice to just have someone that's straight up fucking evil, you know? But I'm going to go with because when we meet our hero, his like revenge arc is done. Okay, there's the villain is a racist, especially towards Native Americans, which is going to be key. I'm not going to say he's rich. No, I mean, everybody wants the villain to be rich. I don't want a rich villain. I want a villain that rules by fear. In other words, everybody's afraid of him because he's a violent individual. Uh, Someone who's going to do what he wants and takes what he wants because he rules by fear and he's uh, deadly, uh, deadly temper and with a gun. And we'll get into guns here in a minute. All right. That's the there's more to the villain than that, but I don't want like a mining tycoon or a land baron or anything. I want someone who's just straight up fucking evil. Okay. Uh, Other thing, he harms children, children, and serial killer. Right? If they had serial killers in the Old West, I mean, you can look at legendary villains of the Old West. I mean, people call Billy the Kid a villain, even Jesse James, but there was a reason why they were doing what they're doing. This guy just don't have a fucking reason other than the fact he likes killing people, especially children. So that I think that makes him will help like people not to sympathize. I want people to actually hate this guy. I want them to hate him. and we're gonna make sure he's linked to our hero's past. Right? Okay. All right, and then our we're gonna have there's gonna be a few NPCs. I guess that'll be the best way. They're gonna be central to the story. Your typical shopkeeper, pastor, a sheriff, all that. But the our secondary hero is a little girl, survivor. All right. I'm not gonna get too much into it because that's like a key element of my story. It's gonna be a little girl that is a survivor, right? And that helps with our hero's motivations to not transform from who he is, but the motivation becomes more clear to why he's doing what he's doing beyond just following the law. Why this becomes really personal for him, and you can see this if I craft this the right way. The little girl's strength is doesn't come from the hero, but it's her own strength. But it kind of helps the reader understand how the strength and the burden of our hero. If I can craft this story right, that's what I want to do. All right. Lastly, okay, now we get into like personal items, guns, okay, and holsters. All right, I got a little thing here to show you. Okay. Just like with where we are, our setting is happening. Okay, there's a lot of misconceptions about the West that no, thanks to Hollywood, that are not accurate at all. All right, I did a little Google searching. Okay, all right, holsters. All right, here, these like low hip holster, these type of holsters are not historically accurate. Okay, okay, you'll see westerns where they have this low hip holster and they're on the horse and whip out the gun and start shooting. No, because that's uncomfortable and it will actually affect the draw on your gun. Now, I'm not saying cowboys didn't wear hip holsters, but weren't popular with cowboys because when they actually slow you down. And as you can see right there in the trigger, that is not to prevent him from shooting himself, it's to prevent the gun from falling out while he's riding a horse. So a lot of cowboys didn't like those holsters, and they weren't really the type of holsters they would use. Uh, this is more accurate to the holsters. They'll have a gun high up around their waist, and with the butt of the gun hanging out because it's faster to reach across yourself and pull out your gun as compared to reaching down, unloop it, to keep it from falling out while you're riding a horse and shoot. Okay, it takes too much time. This is your quick draws in the old west, or what people call a fast draw. That's how they had their holster set up. Okay, so that's how he's going to carry his gun. Contrary to popular belief, this setup was not popular at all. All right, because no one hardly ever carried two guns on their hip. All right, if they're going to have two handguns, it will be on a saddle holster. They will have one around their waist where they can get to it on their horse fast, and they will have what is called a, oh, let me get this, saddle holster. Let me show you this. This is actually, if they're going to carry two guns, this would be the rig. All right, this would be the rig. All right, one with the butt out, having out. This is all someone positioning guns in their dominant hand. All right, and this is their first draw weapon here. The one with the butt out, that's the first draw weapon. That's the weapon they're going for first, because that's the one that can get out of the holster the quickest. And yes, they will actually literally reach over with a weaker hand, the slower hand, to get the other one free if they're like in a real gunfight with multiple people, because they don't carry the bullets on the gun as like is shown here, and they actually carry the bullets in their pocket. Okay, because this takes too much time to get the bullets out as compared to having the bullets loose in like in your pocket or your vest pocket or something like that. Not saying that this wasn't something that cowboys did, but typically they're in a gunfight, they'll have the bullets in. If they're going into a fight where they may have to expend a lot of cartridges, they'll have loose cartridges on their person as compared to trying to get cartridges out from a gun belt for a handgun. That's for a handgun. All right, so okay. Let's see if we can see a saddle holster here. Because typically a saddle holster, okay, a saddle holster, okay, you see a scarab there. That's a rifle scarab. A saddle holster would be like on the front of the saddle right here, and that's where most historic cowboys didn't wear their guns on their hip while riding a horse, because it's cumbersome and takes too long to draw. That you will have it right. I have a saddle holster like right here for their handgun. There would be on the front of the saddle or on the back of the saddle where they could get to it fast. Because if someone's shooting at you, you want to get your guns fast, okay? And contrary to what you typically see in Hollywood movies, they won't go for their handgun first. They'll go for the rifle first. Okay, there's a reason why the Winchester is called the gun that won the West. It's because that's typically what people were shooting. They weren't shooting with handguns. Handguns were good. You've seen like the two cowboys are sitting out there and they're going to do a showdown, and they're using two handguns, and they're like 20 feet apart. The handguns back in the Old West were wildly inaccurate. All right, accuracy wasn't a big thing back then. It was mostly everybody was literally walking around with rifles in their hands, because rifles were accurate as compared to your typical handgun prior to the Civil War. So our hero will definitely have a Winchester. Okay, let's go back here. I'll switch you over to our notepad here. Okay, all right, hero. Give me it. All right. We'll have a Winchester rifle. Okay. Also, you have a Colt Peacemaker, because that was the most accurate handgun of the time. A Colt Peacemaker was the most accurate handgun at the time. And his backstory will explain why he has, because a Winchester rifle and a Colt Peacemaker was very expensive back then. We're talking a Winchester rifle, if you were to buy it back then, was like $25, which was a lot of money back in the 1870s. A Colt Peacemaker was like $15, which once again, very expensive. All right, let's get into here. Let me get you back over to where I need you to see things so you can kind of understand what we're doing here. Okay. All right. There. Uh, they also had. Oh, 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 oh. All right. This is your typical shoulder holster. All right, and it was not used like that you see today, high up on their on the body. It was like low, uh, and this is their like if they were going to have two guns or even three guns, this will be actually where their second gun will be. Right, not you don't typically see a historically accurate picture of a cowboy with three guns. It's not something that happens. It happens in Hollywood movies because guns were expensive. So a shoulder holster is something they would typically have for like a secondary weapon, and not a large gun really, but more of something like this here. If we look at a small gun, okay, which wouldn't be like something that would be like good in a very close range type fight, like a bar fight or something like that, where it would be cumbersome to whip out a rifle in a bar because amount of people in a saloon. That's where handguns become involved. Most people, most cowboys that walk into a saloon didn't bring their rifle in. They brought their rifle in not for defense, to prevent it from being stolen. Okay, all right, because if they leave their weapons on their horse, then most likely what's going to get stolen is their weapons. So, and stealing a horse was a hanging offense back in the 1870s, but stealing a gun wasn't a hanging offense. All right, but yeah, typically a small firearm was used. So our hero will have a. Hold on. I gotta get you back over there. Give me 1 second. Our hero will have a second gun. For like close, like things get tight, he can pull out a second gun, which will have six shots. Okay, it's because your Colt peacemakers. There were two kinds of Colt peacemakers. There was a 6-shot peacemaker and an 8-shot peacemaker. All right, you see in Western movies, uh, those were, if I remember correctly, you'll see 8 shots in a peacemaker in a movie. Okay, which that is historically accurate. All right, a Winchester, actually, the max ammo count for a Winchester is about 10 to 14 shots. Okay, that's about as accurate as we can make it. I mean, you see in the movie, they just keep on shooting, and they shoot off 20 rounds, and all of a sudden, oh, gotta reload. And then they shoot off another 20, but it doesn't work that way. Okay. I'm trying to be as historically accurate. So he's going to have a shoulder holster, a saddle holster, uh, a rifle scarab, I think that's the correct way. Not the correct way to spell it, but that's not a big deal right at the moment. And his second gun, which we're going to look at guns here now. By the way, I'm not glorifying gun violence, but this is just to be historically accurate of guns of the Old West. All right. So let's go here and go back to our research. Yeah. All right. Back to our research. type of guns of the Old West. Images. Like I said, single action army, which is the Peacemaker. Winchester model 1873. That was made. That was a repeating rifle, lever action. Uh, their shotguns were used mostly by shopkeepers because the pellet spray and like a sawed-off shotgun was like used like in close gunfights or typically by your most shotguns were used by your stagecoach drivers and your shopkeepers to like immediate threat of I'm gonna blow you in half type thing. So that's and I don't want to have our hero way down with a whole bunch of guns. Okay, all right. We don't want to have him like a walking arsenal. I mean, I think a Winchester, a Colt Peacemaker, and a secondary sidearm is good enough. Okay, I don't need him to be like a walking army platoon of weapons. All right. Uh, Images. Okay, let's see here. Here's a good one. Here we are. Okay. See, right. Like this Colt Baby Dragoon would be good as a secondary weapon. But this is the type of gun that you replace the whole firing barrel. Okay. All right. You will put the like the you pull the barrel down, take the barrel out, basically the firing barrel, and you replace it with a fully loaded barrel in there. These weren't as popular as what you typically see in a movie or like this, where you would load each you take out the empty shells and put new shells in, because there were those loaded barrels, the revolvers took up too much space and they were heavy, right? So that's why, like, as a secondary weapon, you will have like maybe two revolvers fully loaded for your secondary weapon, your smaller weapon. That's the reason, and that way, that was like your last option, right? Because if you're in a fight that big where you run out of ammunition and all your guns, and you're down to your secondary weapon, you don't have any more ammunition for your primary. That secondary one is like boom, boom, get him down. I'll load my primary. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, primary's empty. Boom, boom with the secondary. Download the primary. Okay, that's what the secondary weapon was used for mostly in the Old West, was to give you time to actually load your primary weapon or your rifle to keep people in cover while you can reload. I think this is actually a little bit better picture. Can you bring that up? Let's bring that up. Sure. Oh, we're going to Facebook. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can we blow that up? But yeah. All right, there we are. That's a little bit clearer. As you see, like this right here, even though it's this Colt weapon here, all right, and it's got different grains of bullets, which we can't really make out. I mean, and there's a misconception with the way the bullets were back then. Most people think that mostly because of the movies, when people shoot their guns in Western movies, the bullets act like modern day ammunition. Not even fucking close, by the way. Okay. These bullets, if they were, you see them like they shoot and they'll go through wood and all of that. A lot of these a lot of this ammunition they used back then had problems to get in handguns, had a big problem getting through wood. All right. You know, some of the time they had a problem getting through the human body. Okay. Because it was soft lead. Right. They would hit the body. If it hit bone, most likely it would get lodged in a bone. I mean, it's very rare you will see someone getting shot with a handgun, and all of a sudden there's this big hole in their belt, in their chest. No, that don't fucking happen. That don't fucking happen. And the further you're away, the less of a chance of it actually penetrating the body deep enough to cause serious injury. It's sort of like going Hollow Magic. They're like 20 to almost 2 yards apart. Actually, no, about they're 10 yards apart. Bam, bam. Oh, the one guy missed, another guy is dead. And no, that would he would gotten shot if if the guy had an accurate gun, but the chances of that distance of a handgun hitting him is extremely rare. That's the reason why you don't typically see like people like having a hear any accurate records, any records of a quote unquote showdown that you see in Hollywood movies. Most of it in gunfights and that happened though was spontaneous, and they were using handguns close range. We're talking within 10 to 20 feet of each other, because if they get in further than that, one, the gun becomes inaccurate, and two, the chances of the bullet doing any real damage goes down dramatically. All right, you and a lot of other misconceptions in that portrayed in Hollywood is that the fastest guy wins. No, the most prepared guy wins. All right, the one that had better equipment, better firearms, and know his firearms well enough to know which one to reach for to increase their chance of survival. Because that's basically American West, and the reason why you see people wear guns was not to be threatening, but just to survive. Because no, the good guys wore guns too, and they were there. They needed the guns to protect themselves. And it wasn't about, hey, I'm a badass. It's about if you pull your gun on me, I'm pulling mine, and they get to know their weapon real well. But the secondary weapon will probably be one of these, and I'll have to look that up, to be honest with you. All right, close that. Close that. I mean, Derringers were popular with women and your gamblers, because they're sitting at a card table, someone draws a gun, they pull out danger, and they got two shots. But and you wouldn't believe how complicated these guns were in the Old West. How, quite frankly, the handguns were difficult to use. Because how inaccurate they are. The ammunition, I mean, especially why a lot of, you see like the sheriff walking down holding a shotgun, all that. The sheriff wouldn't be walking down the street holding a shotgun. Okay, because shotgun cartridges had a tendency to misfire. Okay, they would walk down with a Winchester rifle or just have a gun on their hip. But chances of them walking around town holding a shotgun as like their primary long range weapon was very unlikely, due to the fact that shotgun ammo had a tendency to misfire, and that was a short range weapon. Most of the time, these people shooting at each other were rifles, their Winchesters or the Buffalo rifles and all that, shooting at people. They weren't interested in getting into close range combat because it's not about being a coward. It's how good your rifle is, because the chances of you surviving this fight go up with a rifle as compared to a handgun, because the handguns were, like I said, wildly inaccurate. A Peacemaker was about the most accurate handgun under 20 feet. So when you see those guys like standing in Hollywood movies and they're like 10 yards apart and they're quick draw and the guy goes down, that was extremely unlikely. Okay. Due to the fact that ammo and how inaccurate handguns are. It just looks good on film. Okay. And it looks good when the hero is faster than the villain. But the reality is, no, they were actually probably not in town when they had their fight, or if they were in town, it was like somebody was on a roof with a rifle and all that stuff. And yeah, walking around to see who's faster with their rifles compared to their handguns. Handguns were more or less used as a weapon where in places like a saloon, a general store, or walking down the boardwalk. But if you're walking down the boardwalk, most of them had their rifles in their hands. So it was very rarely you see a spontaneous battle happen with rifles in a Western town. And believe it or not, like I said, a lot of cowboys just walk around with their rifles in their hand until like they say, "Hey, put your guns up," or turn your guns into the sheriff, which came. I mean, this is another one. A Spencer rifle was also popular. The reason why you don't hear everybody talking about Winchester was because, as you can see, the Spencer rifle, well, had seven shots. I think a Winchester had more, and they were easier to load. Be honest with you. Okay, they were easier to load because the Spencer rifle was loaded from the butt of the rifle. You had to put it out and had preloaded cartridges and push the cartridges in, or load the bullets from the butt and then get the spring cartridge in there and back. It took too long. It took too long. That's the reason why you don't hear about the Spencer carbines. Spencer carbines were also called a buffalo rifle. That's what they used to hunt for hunting. They used Spencer rifles for hunting because they had a higher caliber ammunition as compared to a Winchester. Winchester had more shots. A Spencer rifle had larger caliber ammunition that you can use, which was good for hunting, especially deer, elk. These are large animals. They weren't typically used for personal defense. Not saying they weren't. I'm just saying they weren't typically used for defense. I got it. Fine. Yeah, everybody had fucking Glocks in the Old West. All right. Let me get back here. AI mode. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, see, like you gotta kind of look at things like the Navy revolver was a cap and ball revolver. So you have a cartridge just full of gunpowder. You have to load a wad with a lead bearing. Looks like a ball bearing. You let it load in it, and you have to push it into the cartridge, and then rotate. And you have that all loaded up prior to you pulling that out, because it was not a fast reload at all. I mean, later on they were going to use like the same cartridge as the Peacemaker, but Um, okay. I think the Remington new Army model uh, was the typical one they use as a secondary weapon in a shoulder holster, if I remember correctly. And that's probably what his secondary weapon will be. Is a new. Uh, Let me just copy that, and I'm gonna put that, and I'm gonna switch over here. And we're just gonna paste. I'm gonna just paste that on there. Can I do a paste? There we are. Paste. Okay. All right. So, Winchester, the gun that went lever action. Let's see. Henry. Um, they use 44. Okay, they can lever action repeater, often significant firepower for its time, holding 15 rounds in its magazine plus one in the chamber. Saw heavy use during after the Civil War. I think the number of shots were the same. I think 15. I think it was anywhere 10 to 15 with the Winchester. But a Henry repeating rifle was another popular one. Uh, like most of the rifles that that back in the American West were converted muskets, believe it or not. But uh, it's like sharp rifles were typically used for hunting. Buffalo hunters use them. Your typical farmer will use them to go hunting deer, elk, and all that to get meat for to get through the winter and all that stuff. Uh, Shotguns, double barrel shotguns were typically used by stagecoach, and a Winchester model 1887 was the first repeating rifle, shotgun, but that wasn't really something that came out of the Civil War, or wasn't something that a lot of people in the wild, wild west, if you want to put it that way, would be using. So for my story, it wouldn't be something. What is it? Okay, I'm sorry, you're not seeing this. I don't know why. I showed. Okay, hold on. Let me go here. Let me go back. Do this again. Okay. There we are. Don't know why I wasn't showing it. I had it set up to show it to you. But yeah. So to be historically accurate to the guns and how they were holstered is actually very important for my story to give it more of a unique flavor when reading it, so you can understand, to get you more of an understanding how the West truly was as compared to what you see in Hollywood. I love John Wayne movies, but they weren't historically accurate at all. Okay, just to be honest with you. Let's talk about horses. All right. Okay. Now there were different breeds of horses. Okay. You will hear people talk about Mustangs. You'll hear painted ponies and all this, but there's probably only, like, I believe there were only three breeds of horses of the American West. Mustang, a quarter horse was typically used by ranchers because cattle drives. In Appaloosa, uh, were what you call your spotted ponies. Uh, the Morgan was you see them riding as first the prairies. That was a Morgan, and uh, but actually what you probably would see most frequently is an Appaloosa or a Mustang. Okay, now where the horses range defines their ability. An Appaloosa in the Pacific Northwest was typically your mountain horses. because that's like, if you look at the Pacific Northwest, it's like a mountainous area, and they're used to that typical terrain. A Mustang was more of your wild plains horse. Okay, and there was mountain bred Mustangs. That, so for our intensive purposes, it's going to be a Mustang, some a mountain bred Mustang. Okay, and there were a lot crossbreeding with all these horses to get a breed that was both a good plains horse for cattle drives and to go through the mountains. So you'll see like Appaloosa and Mustangs bred. Well, I don't actually, quarter horses and Mustangs crossbreeding to get that horse that was good for cattle drives and getting through the mountains, because cattle drives happen to go through the mountains a lot. So you need a good horse that can do both. Have the instinct for the cattle drive and the ability to get through the mountains, because wasn't that fucking easy. All right, so we're gonna have a bring it back over here. We can go here. Our horse. Oh, hold on, let me fix that. It's gonna bother me. Okay. Our horse, a mountain bred Mustang and quarter horse. If I can spell quarter horse. Quarter horse. Gray coat with white blaze. On nose. Oh yes, this is all important actually. Okay, so we basically got our setup here for my story. Everything. The villain, as for his guns, it will probably be not a peacemaker. I think like a Colt Army revolver that's been converted. But and I'm just gonna get everybody's gonna have a Winchester rifle. All right. Although there'll be other weapons mixed in with the NPCs. Your shopkeepers will have shotguns. Your sheriff will have a Winchester and a Colt Army revolver, which was a typical weapon back then because it was cheaper than a pacemaker and was a reliable revolver. But all this here is our basic setup for the story. Without going to starting to tell you the story before I write it, my intentions is to get at least 5 to 6 chapters done before like revealing it to the public or showing it on stream, because now no one can. This setup, what I posted up here, is very fucking generic. What happens when you start writing a story online and you go out and go into great detail, people will steal it. I know this is like very ambiguous. I mean, the most details we got was what our hero looks like. I didn't go into details of what our villain looks like or anything like that. But those, I mean, way people look, you can't really copyright that or say they stole my idea. But it's also simple fact being, it's something that as long as I keep it vague, I'm good, and people can't steal my story and call it their own. Which no, there's gonna be similarities to my story with other people's stories, which that's gonna fucking happen because we have influence of when you tell stories. You get influence from the things you have watched when you were growing up, or show you watch now, or a YouTube video. you're gonna have similarities, but there's always going to be elements that are unique to that story. And this, what I'm trying to do here, as keeping it as vague as I possibly can, including settings and all that stuff, is to give you a little idea of what my thinking is for my story. I'm gonna need it later. Documents. Okay, save. But yeah, this is something I've been wanting to do. Uh, Probably in the last 2 years, I would say. The idea of telling a story, not necessarily this particular one. I've had multiple ideas for stories. All right. But none of them really resonated with me as to something I have to tell, something I want to tell. Uh, this was more along, this story here is something I want to tell. And it's gotten to the point I have to tell. It's been like something been floating around in my head when I just sit here just relaxing. The ideas and how I see it visually in my head, because I see how the opening happens and all that, like a movie playing in my brain. And I can like almost smell the mountain air, the pine, and the fresh, crisp, cold air when I'm thinking about it. And I think that's like a pretty good indication that this is a story I really have to tell because it will bother me for, I'm out. I have to get it out. I think I don't know how about other storytellers. I mean, if there's any people who write stories here, they can tell me in my comments or whatever if this is true with them. You get something, an idea stuck in your head so firmly, it becomes a visual thing, and you sit there and think about it all the time, and your hands start itching for the keyboard, and you just want to write it out. You just want to get it out, and not necessarily that you will publish a book necessarily. I mean, I'm sure that's like anybody who writes wants their stories published and people to buy it. Ah, you did a wonderful job. But I'm being quite realistic here, considering this is the first time I'm actually taking it seriously to write a story. I'm not expecting it to be great. I mean, it's your first story is never going to be the best one that comes out of you. To be honest with you, you just have something and you want to get out, and it's going to be far too wordy, probably full of grammar errors and all that stuff. But it's just the joy of telling a story, and to overcoming that fear. This is me trying to entertain you with words, and hopefully you will be mildly entertained and not sit there and say, hey, you don't know how to write in English apparently. Okay, I already know that. Don't have a professional editor or anything like that. There was two different ways I was going to tell this story, by the way. I was going to either tell it by hmm, 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 where'd you go? All right. Okay. Let's just okay. All right. There we are. Uh, uh, I lost my train of thought because the fucking OBS went and showed you the window I want you to say. But I've always loved the American West, and the more I've learned about it, how inaccurate you see in movies, it's kind of like a I mean, the whole hip holster, low on a thigh, and that how unrealistic it was compared to how it was an actual American West and why they carried the guns with her. I was like, that's interesting. I mean, a lot the things you see in Hollywood about westerns were done for so it looks spectacular on film. If anything, if you want to see it like a really historically accurate western, the modern day uh, Magnificent Seven is probably as close as you get to a historically accurate telling of Western yarn, if you want to put it that way. But as I say, when I was growing up, I love westerns. I'll watch John Wayne movies. I was watching John Wayne movies every Sunday when I was when I moved out. It's because it was something my ex didn't like, and she didn't want me watching them. So it's like, okay, you're not here no more, so I'm watching John Wayne movies. Fuck you, bitch. And there is going to be a little bit of inaccuracies in my stories. I'm not going to say I'm going to be like historically accurate, but what I'm saying is there's certain elements that are going to be historically accurate as far as like how the guns are carried, what guns are used, why they're, and as you can see, the reason why I use them. But there's going to be no way, no other way to put it. Hollywood type storytelling. Why the saving the damsel in distress and all that stuff, which is not necessarily what's going to happen, but it's going to be more along the lines of a tortured soul type story in the West that finds redemption somehow and finds a purpose. But yeah, that's what I kind of want to do here. This is something, like I said, I really have been thinking about doing for 2 years, to write a story and just put a piece of my creativity out there in words, and hopefully, I would say maybe 6 months from now, you will enjoy it. I don't know anything about publishing it. I don't even know I will publish it. I may put it out there for as a free read for people to read it and to either give feedback or pass it around or something like that. I don't really expect anything to come of it, but I just it's just something I want to do. All right, it's just something that I feel compelled to do, not as a burden, as something that I would feel like I would truly enjoy doing creatively, and to have quite a bit of fun doing. Uh, it's like I said, there's a lot of things uh, creatively that was stagnated in me for a long time. Writing was one of them. Uh, I was interested in drawing for a long time. I think I even went to college for a little bit to study art, and I realized I suck at drawing. I don't have the patience for it, to be honest with you, to get good at it. So it's like, why can't I be good now? I gotta practice. Oh, what the fuck is practice? As far as like drawing and artistically speaking, visually artistically, I'm not that. I know I'm not that. But words, I know growing up, my grandfather on my dad's side actually was alive in the 1870s and used to tell stories about back. Because when I was like 6 or 7 years old, he was like in the 70s. He was 90 something. The guy lived to like he was 110, right? And my father wasn't very not a very nice man, but anyway, he used to tell stories about the West when he was a kid growing up. I don't know how much of it was true or just something that he wanted to tell his storytelling to his grandkids or something like that, which could be true. But you know, it's it is what it is, and it's one of the few fond memories I have of my childhood was my grandfather tell stories about the Old West, believing he actually was all lived it and all that stuff. Because I mean, I was looking back at it now. He tell a story when he was riding out on the range and he met an Apache war chief. Okay, when he was like 15 or 16 years old. I'm like, doesn't quite add up. After I thought about it, because how what time frame of him to say that he was just riding his horse, or had his guns and his rifle at his side, and he ran across this Apache wood chief. And I'm like, okay, this was like probably 1950, no, 1920. I don't think you were able to meet an Apache war chief in the 1920s. Okay. It's probably a story that his father told him, my great great grandfather told him, and he just made it about himself, which is fine. But it was for telling your grandkids a tale made out of cloth. It's not a bad thing. It's something that you can enjoy doing as you get when you have grandkids, or just want to tell a story. This is what I want to do. I just want to tell a story. I just there's things this is something I've been wanting to do since I was 16 years old. So why not just go ahead and do it? What's the worst going to happen? People tell me I suck and go, I know. Like I said, you got to work hard to insult me. It's like I insult myself all the fucking time, by the way. Okay, creatively, all that stuff, you're gonna have to work hard. Because I don't think I'm gonna this my first story is gonna be a great novel of any kind. It's like I said, it's just something I want to do, be able to enjoy it. No, it would it would be fun, you know? And I'm all about having fun. Okay. Uh, I've been known to be one of those guys that go after the windmills, tilt and all that stuff. Uh, to this is a cause that we all need to get behind. Yeah, I've been known as one of those guys. I'm too old to be that guy anymore, to be honest. All right. Oh, new game after a very short statement. Oh shit! I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I really, really don't like that. Hopefully, it's not something bad, right? I really hope it's not something bad. Okay. Um, but I mean, as someone who likes RPGs and playing games with stories, story structure is very important to me. Uh, Pacing and all that. I know this is me, like when I was doing reviews of comic books with all my friends show, that I would well, comic book artwork is nice, but if the story sucks, then the whole book sucks. If the story is then the whole book is okay. All right. If it's visually appealing, great. But all in all, if you're bored reading it, it's like it could be look visually wonderfully, and you kind of look at it and go, the story's still bland. You know, where where are you where are you gonna actually challenge yourself or something like that? Watch Boss's stream. He streamed earlier today. Okay, watch that later. And funny enough, okay, I'll be honest about it. Okay, get to it. Okay, yeah, but, I'm gonna do this real fast. A lot of inspiration came from here about people's behavior. All right, I one of the reasons why I go to Twitter a lot and repost is to people watch actually how they behave. You know, I want to see. Um, when's the last time she? Oh no, she didn't. She hasn't posted anything. And wow. Hopefully she'll be back soon. Hopefully she'll be back soon, in one form or another. To be honest, because I think we're gonna hear her voice and maybe not be a cacker, but it's come here to like see why people get upset and and what they rant and rave about, and kind of just it's like her the stuff that happened to her. I mean, if you think about it, what happened to her was just what happened in small town American West stories in the 1870s. Reputation was a very powerful thing back then. And women's reputation, if it gets tarnished or destroyed, they were ostracized, or yeah, nobody would help them or anything like that. Fallen woman is the worst title that you could have back in the American West, because even if you had kids and everything, nobody would help you because everybody was looking down on you. You basically have the scarlet letter on your chest, right? So, and even the children suffered from it. Nobody would help them, beat them, or anything like that. Being a widow in the American West was not an easy thing at all. Um, but it's a lot of things that you see here on Twitter that you kind of look at and go, hmm. Uh, you can tell people's behavior. I'm not saying that this is what they really think. This is what they want you to think of them. It's one of those things you kind of have to take a look at and going, is this what people want you to think? And look at this here. Look, show you this. And what's happened to Emerald? It's atypical of what happened in the American West is to tarnish a woman's reputation. So people would ostracize. I know I'm fucking this up. Ostracize her so nobody will help her. All right. Uh, and yeah, you get people who defend her, where she has a right not to voice her opinion. No one has to voice their political opinion. Nobody. You don't have to tell anybody who you vote for. It's not a requirement for you to sit there and say, "Hey, this is who I vote for." I mean, I freely admit I voted for Trump, and I told you why. Okay. those who are just not going to go, look, I voted for Trump because Kamala Harris didn't get a single vote in a primary. And I do not want a political party just to interchange candidates because they think they're going to lose. That's the reason why I voted for Trump. Not because I believed in him. It was me saying I will not put up with this from a political party. So like I said, if Trump runs for a third term, I'm going to vote for his opponent because I don't think any president should run for a third term, no matter how wonderful they are, right? Because if once that happens, and that president is a precedent, once that action happens, that means someone who can literally get elected as president and declare himself the king of America, and I don't fucking want that. Right. So if he was to do that, I would vote against him. To be honest with you, you know, I would vote for the person I think is going to do the best for America. And am I happy with the way things are going in this country? No. To be honest with you, I don't. He's made a lot of promises. Some he's kept. Some he definitely hasn't kept. Uh, I'll admit that he's gotten a lot of opposition to things. Some things he has done, in my opinion, he's moved too fast. He's trying to be sometimes a feather touch is a lot better than a blunt hammer. Okay? And he likes using a blunt hammer a lot to make people do what he wants. But the problem is, I don't. When you try to do that, people will stand against you left and right. I'm not talking about the immigration stuff. I'm talking about the tariff stuff. All right, that has not worked out the way he wanted to. Be honest. Um, and to once again, like all this stuff, all this political grandstanding on this platform, I don't take it seriously at all. I don't because hey, she said good morning, so I got post them. I'm not Minty. Um, uh, I I'm not saying they don't believe what they're posting on here, but I don't think they're so unbendable that they can't see the reality of the situation where things haven't been working good for the last 15 to 20 years. The country, and for that matter, the world has been on a downtrend to eventually a major war is going to break out. And people are scared of that more than anything else. With the world economy being the way it is, where there's a lot of people struggling. And when you have a lot of people struggling, uh, example is Germany, the 1930 Germany. The Germans were struggling, and they would. Someone told them they will make things right. That these people are to blame, and people believed it because they were everything was horrible. This guy came in, made all these changes, and think their life got a little bit better. So they believed he was doing the right thing, and that's kind of what happened. Grant that did the his philosophy and all that really was winding down when he started taking because they got the blockades like they do now. People with countries wouldn't give him resources, so he started conquering other countries to get resources. Okay, and because they didn't like the rhetoric he was saying. I'm not saying they weren't justified. Okay, let me make sure I am very clear. I'm not saying that it was not justified, but what I'm saying is the cause of what happened to Germany, the world wanted to punish Germany, so German citizens suffered. And instead of going, "Hey, our leadership caused all this," the world was sitting there going smugly, going, "You're getting what you deserve." That caused a isolationist mentality of the world is against us, so we're going to have to fight the world. All right. And I'm saying this as a non-German, by the way, uh, but as understanding how human behavior is, when you become an isolationist, you blame the fucking world. You believe everybody's out to get you, and you think you have to fight the world. No, you just kind of have to look at the reason why these things are happening. Why are they happening? And to realize that, hey, maybe we have a little bit of blame here. Okay, thank you. Um, and we have to take responsibility for some of the things that we've done. Also, okay, and look at our leadership. If our leadership is harming us more than they're helping us, maybe we need new leadership. Okay, I'm not saying, hey, we need to go this direction as far as economy or something. I'm saying we need to look at our leadership. This hasn't been working for the last 25, 30 years. Why you guys keep trying to go down this path if our lives as American citizens have gotten worse? I know that's the question that people need to ask. If shit's been bad for the last 20 some years, it isn't one single political party that's doing it all. That's just the hard part. People have to recognize it's not one political party that's doing it all. It's the people in government, regardless if whatever letter you want to put behind their fucking name, that are failing us. Why do you keep re-electing the same stupid motherfuckers to office if they haven't done a good fucking job in the last 20 years? You know? And if you get a brand new candidate and they're saying the same shit as the old guy that is not running again, why vote for that motherfucker? Because that just tells you nothing's going to fucking change. Things aren't going to get better. Now, I'm not, I'm going to be straight up. If a socialist ran for office, I will vote against them because there's been plenty of examples around the world of how well socialism works. It doesn't. Okay. You know what socialism does, by the way? Those who are in power become more powerful. Those who have been suffering and believe that socialism is going to make a change, their life gets a lot worse because all the money and power and all the influence go to the people that say, "Oh, we're going to make the rich pay for it." No, the rich get richer. The people in power get richer too. The people who were suffering before that believed that that message of socialism was going to change things get poor, and they struggle greater, and they suffer even more. That's socialism. Now, do I think capitalism is wonderful? No. But it's better than socialism, to be honest with you. Okay, what people don't understand about capitalism, and they all make the same fucking mistake. Oh, you begin corporations, all this. If you don't buy their fucking products, those corporations fall. Because without capital going into these corporations, they can't fucking exist. They can't pay their bills without your money. You know? And you in our society here in America, you can contact your senator and representative and say, why aren't you investigating this corporation, or why aren't you investigating them? Their prices are outrageous, and we can't have the necessity of life, whether it be electric, water, housing, or food. Okay, and if you dig into the campaign donations of these people, and you look at names and you research their names, you'll find out that a lot of the people who donate to elected officials are running those corporations to, so it kind of tells you that they're buying these candidates, right? And you got to look at it and go, why are things so bad? Our representatives, in some cases, even presidents, have been bought and paid for by these causes they are championing. That's why I don't like universal health care, because it was designed by insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. The price of healthcare was supposed to go down. It didn't go down. It went up. All right. The price of medicine. No, this when you go to whatever pharmacy you go to, those are supposed to go down. They haven't gone down. They have gone up dramatically. I like telling the story when my mom was on insulin, when we had to go get her insulin for a month, and the full price for that insulin, and I'm not talking about with the insurance discount, was $40 for a 30 days supply of insulin. We're talking vials and needles and all that stuff, all the stuff you need to get insulin. Now it's upwards to get a 30-day supply of insulin is about anywhere from $500 to $700. So tell me how the prices have gone down, please. Uh, when my dad went to chemo and all that stuff, when he had his cancer, it was $20,000. Now it's upward to over 100,000. Once again, please tell me how the prices of healthcare have gone down. They have constantly gone up since universal healthcare. So don't tell me that healthcare is better, especially as me, one that's going through it. Because yeah, if I go switch insurance company, yeah, they're going to have to treat my current element, my illness, my illness, and the prerequisite thing that they fell back. Oh, you had this condition before you got insurance, so we're not going to pay for it. That's really all they had to get rid of. Really, that's all they had to get rid of. That the insurance company cannot deny you on pre-existing conditions. That they have to accept it and have to treat it. No. Uh, and to deal with it. Um, I gotta check something. Of course, that signal. It's going down. But I mean, the people don't realize that the insurance company and pharmaceutical companies were ones that designed universal health care. You know, the ones that are supposed to be the big bad enemies are the ones that are in control of your health care. And they bought politicians to do it. They made significant campaign donations to them. Why do you think when these people who leave Washington are only supposed to be making about 100,000 a year, have some of them have 3 to 4 homes and living as multi-millionaires? and people are like fine with it. They're not sitting here saying anything. Okay. Uh, and the that's a major thing that needs to be addressed. To be honest with you, I think that's going to happen. I think a lot of people are very upset with the federal government, realizing that I think that a slow awakening is happening here in America. That people are looking at their leadership and going, "We're tired of you. We're really, really tired, and we're really, really angry with you." Because we asked you to do a job and you're just doing the job that people who do not have our best interests at heart and making our lives worse. So I've said this before. I think yes. Do I think a civil war is going to happen? Yes. I think it'll be the American people against the federal government. I think the American people are actually going to unite against the federal government, not one party or the other party. I just think the American people are all going to come together and go after the federal government. And that, and I think people in the federal government are slowly becoming aware of this, and it's got them scared. They're really, really afraid of it. Oh, Saba's trending. Why is Saba trending? Why is Saba trending? Why is Saba trending? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Vote Reagan for something else. Okay. But yeah, um, I'm I truly believe that. I think people are tired, and they're tired of being angry at each other, and they're seeing the actual cause of their suffering, and there is going to be a reckoning. I'm not talking about a violent one. I think eventually an election is going to happen that where all these incumbents and all that are just going to be ousted. I think people are tired. When I was growing up, no president ran unopposed. In the 70s and even into the 80s, no president ran unopposed because no, somebody wanted to be president because they thought their ideas were better than the current one in the same party. I think it's a mistake. You know, it, giving people other options. And I think having a president run unopposed is a fucking mistake. A big fucking mistake. And I don't know why this became something that happened, but I do believe that it's a mistake. I gotta watch that. I say that and I probably won't. I'm sorry, boss. I do get a little tired. I'm old. Um, oh, what's going on here? Um, yeah. I'm gonna wrap this up here. I don't want to keep on talking about this. It's not the I'm not here to talk about politics. Even though I'm not really being political. I'm being it's the way I say honest. What the hell is that? I know. Shut. Uh, I do. like I said, I do think if we get real and be realistic with ourselves and take a hard look at the world, we realize that our problem is leadership, not political parties, religion, all that stuff. A lot of the world's ills is due to the fact that we have the wrong people in positions to make decisions, and we need to send a message non-violently that this is going to stop, and you will do what we need you to do for the good of for the citizens you're supposed to represent, not for the select few. And I'm saying this as I don't care if you are a Democrat, Republican, Independent. You have to take a hard look. Are these people you vote to be making decisions actually doing what needs to be done? And if you're honest about it, you gotta say no. It always goes back to this question: is your life better now than it was 4 years ago? Especially when you get to election status on a state level, well, on a local, state, and federal level. You have to ask that question: is my life better than it was 4 years ago? If the answer is no, guess what? Don't vote for that fucking person. Vote for the person that's running against them. If you believe in their message, if you believe they're going to make your life better, vote for them. If you're in a world where you have elections, I know some places in the world don't, but it is what it is. I can't tell you what to do in that situation because I've never lived in that situation, to be honest with you. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this, my little bit of explaining my story ideas. And hopefully you will be here tonight for the big collab with me, Roboto, GVP, and Zero. We're going to be playing Peak first, then Repo. That's the plan. I don't know how well that we're going to stick to that plan, but that's the plan. Okay. And we're going to go for that. That will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make the adjustment for your time zone. Don't ask me to do it because I'm stupid. And no, it's not. I'm stupid. I'm just too fucking lazy to look it up. But yeah, we'll get that big collab tonight. And hopefully you will join us. Whoever stream that you watch it, because we're all going to be streaming it. So whoever's point of view you want to watch, please join in. And I will see you tonight. Once again, if you made this far, thank you so much. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Yeah, that was perfectly timed. Hit the notification bell so you get the community posts about when I'm going to stream and what I'm going to stream, if I'm going to do a morning chat or not. Also, if you wouldn't mind, follow me on Twitter at StansOf. That way you can see when I post when I'm going to stream or my silly, stupid post. I think I'm trying to be funny. And you see my weekly schedule because you see the weekly schedule pinned to my profile. And once again, as I say all the time, just be good to each other. And I'll see you tonight for the collab.